Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Clearly, all of us are concerned about the influx of unaccompanied minors crossing the border, and it is a multifaceted problem with no easy solutions leading to a level 4 condition that you've declared. I'd like to ask you in the coming weeks to work with me and colleagues, other colleagues who are interested in enabling us to travel to see some of these facilities. I think that would enable us to really better understand and grasp the enormity of this crisis situation. Turning to prosecutorial discretion, I'm looking at your Morton memo, which enumerates some 19 factors in exercising prosecutory discretion regarding numerous immigration procedures, including deportation. And of the 400,000 or so deportation that DHS is carrying out each year, do you have data on how many of these are people who are being deported who could receive prosecutorial discretion, exercise of prosecutorial discretion based on things such as family ties or community ties?
There are ways to make that statistical assessment, and we're in the midst of doing that right now as part of my review of our enforcement policies. I think that the data in years past has not been as clear as it could be. One of the things I'd like to do is to make the data clearer, be a little more forthcoming each year, and correlate the data to the individual priorities in the Morton memo so that we all have a clearer sense for whether somebody's being removed who's a priority 1 or a priority 2 or priority 3. So I think we can do a better job there. I also think we need clearer guidance. So when you say the Morton memo, for example, it's unclear to me whether you're referring to the March memo or the June memo of 2011 or a whole other series of memos that have
Well,
been issued
there are
over the
various
years.
iterations of
Right.
enabling your agents pretty much across the board to exercise prosecutorial discretion. And so I'd really like to understand of the 400,000 or so deportations, who actually are being deported. Because, for example, I get concerned when recent reports indicate that ICE field offices in Detroit is placing people with strong family ties without any criminal record into deportation proceedings. So it's kind of reminiscent of what's been coming out regarding the Veterans Administration. It's one thing to have a policy directive such as the Morton memo, but it's another as to what is actually going on out in the field and the exercise of that discretion. I recognize that the Morton memo also says that these are guidelines and that your agents have, can prosecute people who are here illegally. But I think in terms of scarce resources and your establishment of priorities of how we ought to be enforcing our law, it would be good for us to have that kind of breakdown from you. So I'd like to request that.
Well, one of the things that I've learned from my Department of Defense experience is clear guidance is indispensable. If you don't issue clear guidance to the field,
Great.
then how it's implemented is not going to look at all like what you intended. And so DOD, whenever they issue new guidance, they always socialize, train it to the field, down the chain of command. And so I've spent a lot of time talking to our workforce about how to better implement policy changes that are issued in Washington, how to socialize them, and I'm determined to do a better job in that regard.
Good. My understanding is that under the DACA program, some 500,000 young people have come forward to participate. And many of them are now in the renewal process, I believe, because DACA has to be renewed every 2 years. So I understand that your department is suggesting that applicants apply for renewal up to 4 months before the expiration of the 2-year term. So I know that that is to give them enough time so that there is no gap, which would subject them to deportation and other kind of actions. So what is your department doing to ensure that renewals are handled expeditiously, and what is your department planning to do if processing delays lead to lapses in the status?
Well, we've been preparing for this for some time now, and one of the things we're doing is we're not requiring individuals to submit all the same documentation they submitted 2 years ago unless there's been some new event in their life, like a criminal conviction or something. But we're not requiring individuals to go back and submit the very same paperwork all over again. And you're correct that we had over 600,000 applicants 2 years ago. About 500 applications were granted. That's a large number of people that we were able to get through the system. And so I believe that in the renewal process that, that good work will continue.
I'd like to stay in touch with you regarding how that is going, because 500,000, that's a lot of people. Thank you very much.